Hello and welcome to the second Football Fluency podcast. We hope you enjoyed our first effort. I'm Derry Aldrich and I'm joined by Matthew Robertson to discuss this week's football news stories and to review this afternoon's game between Manchester United and Swansea, although the talking points will be mostly centred around the post-match ceremony rather than the game itself. So Matthew, as an Arsenal fan, you must have been really happy to see Alex Ferguson retire this week.
Good to see the back of that clown. I said to you earlier in the week, as an Arsenal fan growing up, I yearned for the day that Ferguson would retire, because I thought that would be the time when he left, Arsenal could really capitalise on that, and would have a lot of success. But things haven't really turned out that way. The way things have gone with Arsenal. It's maybe not sad, but I don't know. It's been an odd feeling. Especially the next season, it's going to be weird. David Moyes has been at Everton for so long. He's leaving to go to Man U, and then obviously Fergie been at. It's all I've ever known.
Yeah.
So
We'll talk about Moyes' appointment in a few moments, but it's unbelievable the press reaction to Ferguson's retirement.
yeah,
And all the news bulletins have been headed by what's going to happen, sort of his legacy. For you, what sort of legacy do you think Ferguson's left on that club?
I think all the media attention it's deserved. It's the biggest football club in the biggest sport of the world. So, and when you have a manager that's been there for a quarter of a century, it's to me it's expected. The kind of media attention that it's had. Ferguson probably has to go down as the footballing manager of all time. He's probably on your Mount Rushmore. If you're gonna have your phase four, you have your Sir Alex Ferguson. You'd have your I don't even know who else are revered managers across Europe. I guess what's the Germany captain, the old the Kaiser, Beckenbauer.
Yeah.
Sorry. He won the World Cup as a player manager. I'm not sure if he won it as won the European Cup. When I think of football manager, Alex Ferguson comes to mind.
He kind of just epitomises a football manager, doesn't he?
Yeah.
If you were to draw a football manager, it would look like Alex Ferguson.
Yeah, and I think if he'd retired 10 years ago, like he said he was gonna back in 2002, as he planned to, I think that this kind of attention and celebration and praise would have been just as deserved then, 10 years ago. He's he's been there and done it twice.
Yeah, the amount of teams that he's built as well. It's easy to say Arsene Wenger he had success with one, maybe two teams.
Yeah.
But Fergie's had success with 3-4 teams. And I think it'll be a sad day at Old Trafford today. It's a bit of a shame as well that the last game of the season wasn't at home.
Yeah.
But, Scholes is retiring as well, so there'll be a lot of banners.
Obviously Manchester United are already a big club in the fact that they'd won the European Cup back in the 60s, but when he took over they were kind of,
Bunch of drunks.
well, they hadn't had, I don't think they'd won a trophy, the league, was it, for about 20 odd years or so. So, I don't know, his legacy is probably just awakening a sleeping giant, you could say, and turning them into the club. I don't know. I'm never sure who's the biggest club in the world, but Manchester United, Real Madrid. I think it's one of those two.
Yeah, certainly commercially.
Yeah.
Do you think Manchester United are going to have the same success over the next few years as they've enjoyed recently?
It depends how quickly they sack David Moyes. No. Who knows? It's hard to. I remember when Chelsea signed Andrei Shevchenko and Michael Ballack in the same summer. I just assumed that Chelsea would run riot with the Premier League for the next 10 years. Especially with Mourinho as the manager, with Abramovich's billions behind him. I couldn't really see anyone, being a threat. And then, Cristiano Ronaldo just matured and became this great player, and that United team really stepped up. People like Wayne Rooney improved. So you never know. David Moyes. I think it'll take time for him to really, for United to hit their stride in Europe under Moyes. I don't think I'd say in the next.
Struggling under Ferguson in past years. So.
Well, you've been to 3 of the last 5 finals or whatever.
In the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Struggled.
Okay. So yeah,
since it was Cristiano Ronaldo. To be honest.
I don't think Manchester United will be in the European Cup. Maybe even not in the semi-finals in the next 3 years. But I mean, you never know. Every year there's a team that gets to the semi-final stage or so. I mean, Dortmund are in the final this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if next season they weren't even in the quarterfinals. Champ.
Well, the thing is, you can never tell with football, but the way the Premier League's shaping up, the 3 top teams are going to have different managers next season.
Yeah, I think the cups are obviously a lot more unpredictable due to the knockout nature, but I think the league's formula generally at the top, it relatively stays the same. It's been Chelsea, Arsenal, and Manchester United for the past sort of 6-7 years. I guess Arsenal have probably slipped out of that, and Manchester City have inserted themselves in, but I don't see Manchester United falling out of the top 3.
Well, if you look at the odds just now, City and United are joint favourites for the league title next year, but if Chelsea bag Mourinho, then I don't see how they can't be favourites.
Yeah, if Manchester City I don't know, I think they really need to. They have got a really solid spine of the team. You know, Joe Hart, Company, Toure, and you have Aguero or Tevez up front. But they didn't in the summer, and it's been well documented. They didn't really take that next step forward. The players they signed were kind of in neutral. They didn't really improve their squad overall. So I think they probably have to cut out some of the deadwood and shake things up a bit.
Well, we'll probably discuss that in more depth later when we discuss the FA Cup final. But
yeah.
So would you say Manchester United have a good chance of retaining the Premier League title next year?
Yeah, of course.
Under Moyes?
Yeah, the champions.
David Moyes doesn't have much experience at winning things.
Yeah,
obviously.
but they're a good young, the group of players they've got there. They have a taste of winning now. As Ferguson's teams always have had, they have that British core.
It's not Ferguson's team anymore.
Well, okay, it's his players that he's inheriting though. So, they'll be up there. They'll be there and thereabouts. I mean, Manchester United will be within 10 points of the. Basically, whoever finishes above Manchester United will be the champions, in my opinion. And that's always really been the standard, bar 1 or 2 years, known as the Jemba years or whatever. But
You've got to remember the old man was around for all those years, and I know he's going to be in the back. They say he's going to be a director, sort of advising Moyes, but a lot of things are going to change.
How bad a manager do people think David Moyes is?
What makes a good manager? Just keeping a team mid-table in the Premier League for 10 years.
Not mid-table. They've been one fourth, and then probably a lot of 6s and 7s, and maybe a few 5s on a pretty, compared to, people said, David Moyes, he hasn't had, of course he's had money to spend. Fellaini for 15 million and Pienaar for 7. There's about 5 or 6 players that he'd spent over 5 to 10 million on. I think Johnny Heating. It's just like, are you kidding me? Some clubs buy all those players in one season. That's over 10 years. He's had like 5 if Arsenal spent that kind of money, no one would. As in, they bought Fellaini for 15 million. That's like their record-breaking star player. Arsenal spent 15 million on we bought Olivier Giroud for sure he was 12 million. Everyone's just it's just an average player. It's just 12 million. Why didn't we go buy Hazard for 35 million? So no, David Moyes has done an unbelievable job. He's turned Everton. When I first started watching football, when they were managed by Walter Smith, they were a joke. They were sponsored by what was it?
One Digital, was it?
Oh man, BT. I think it was BT Mobile or something like that. And I remember David Ginola signed for them when he was about 80.
Yeah, you can't be judging a team by their sponsors.
Yeah,
I tell you, we can judge David Moyes by this. When was the last time he had a good centre forward play for him?
I mean, who do Everton have up front just now?
Well, they've got Jelavic, who scored goals for fun for Croatia.
Wait, what about Beckford?
Jermaine Beckford. No, but come on. rack your brains. When was the last time Moyes had a decent centre forward?
Zaha was there a few seasons ago.
That was a gift from Fergie.
Yeah, and he was kind of past his prime, but I don't know, Everton, who have they got? Jelavic, they got good strikers now. Jelavic is good.
Anichebe, is he any good?
He's not a good goal scorer, but he's not a bad player. But yeah,
I mean that's what worries me. I don't think Moyes has the same eye for a player as Ferguson has. I know Ferguson's made a lot of mistakes, but I'm just not very optimistic about the Moyes appointment.
Yeah, you have. It's good to see like a youngish British manager getting a chance though at a top club.
Okay.
So that's going to be interesting.
What about this? When Andre Villas-Boas took over at Chelsea.
Yep.
They had 4 or 5 senior players. Didn't like it. They sort of undermined the manager's authority. Could that happen at United with Moyes?
Yeah, but most of I think all those players were older than he was when I think he was like 33. And
I know there's a big difference in age, but there's still sort of a gap in stature between them.
Well, who are those players you're referring to? Scholes is gone, so who? Giggs, Ferdinand, Vidic.
Ferdinand might not get a new contract. Vidic, even the likes of Patrice Evra has been at Manchester United for 10 years. And I know Wayne Rooney, there's speculation over his contract.
Yeah, but you're forgetting one thing. Moyes the Scotsman. You don't fuck with the Scotsman. I'm telling you.
But you don't fuck with the Scotsman, but...
Nah, I maybe not not to the extent of what Chelsea was, because it seemed like the Chelsea players fine, Chelsea's form last season wasn't great under AVB, but it did seem like the players kind of got him the sack. So no, I don't know. Chelsea's a joke of a club.
Is that why you wanted Owen Coyle in at Arsenal? You don't fuck with the Scotsman?
Yeah. Oh man, I didn't want Owen Coyle as a manager a couple of years ago, but when he was doing good things with he'd done well with Burnley, went to Bolton, and then there was this talk of maybe down the line he's someone that, like, if he carries on his current down this current tangent, that he could be like someone to look at for a possible replacement in years to come. Obviously that went to pot, and everyone who ever said that is regrets it deeply. But you've got to think of alternatives for managers. Like I said, Ferguson, we all knew that he was kind of on borrowed time. Like, you expected his retirement to come within the next 2 to 3 years. I expect the same. Arsene Wenger's contract runs out next season. I'm not too sure he'll be at Arsenal in 2 years' time. Not to say I don't know if he'll retire or if he'll move on to another club, but yeah, it's nothing wrong with considering different options.
Change is always imminent in football, but it's just how teams adapt to change can determine success or not.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, what about Everton? How do you think they're going to progress? Are they going to survive in the Premier League without David Moyes?
I don't think they'll progress. But then I don't think they'll be relegated. Maybe.
There's talk of Martinez.
Yeah, that seems like a logical choice for the job. Another manager that kind of seems to work wonders with on a shoestring budget. Obviously, he won the FA Cup with Wigan yesterday against Manchester City, last year's champions. Another one of those billionaire clubs. So that's really fine. Everyone's really, it's a massive achievement, but I think it's slightly underplayed by the fact that maybe the FA Cup doesn't quite get the attention it used to, and also that Wigan, it's an amazing achievement, but they couldn't fully celebrate it in that they still have their Premier League survival in the balance.
Well, so I feel kind of happy for the sort of the backroom staff and things at Wigan who put in a lot of work, and they don't get big attendances. It's a good thing for a small club to win the FA Cup.
Yeah,
they needed it more than City.
Yeah,
maybe not Mancini.
Yeah, probably not, because I think I said on the last podcast, I think you asked me if he'd still be there next season, and I said it was, I was very assured that would happen, but I don't know. There's a lot of stories coming out in the press yesterday before the game saying that Manuel Pellegrini, the Malaga manager, is currently being lined up for the job. So, and when I think of Mancini, he's done well. He's really the foundation of what is to come from City. And he came in, he won them their first major trophy in 30 odd years or whatever with the FA Cup. Followed it up the next year by winning the Premier League. Never kicked on in Europe. So I think he's laid the groundwork for a better, maybe a more risque manager to come in. I feel like Mancini's slightly not the best manager to give all that kind of money to, because he's bought a lot of players that, fine, they know the Premier League, and you need kind of players like James Milner and Gareth Barry and
Lesko.
Yeah, players like that they've been around the Premier League, and you mix them with the unpredictability and the flair of Aguero's and David Silva's. But I think maybe to compete in Europe, maybe you just need a bit more. So I'd be interested to see whoever comes in, if he is to leave in this summer, whoever comes in, to see if they take a more exciting approach with all that money at their disposal.
Well, getting back to Everton.
Yeah, sorry.
Do you think David, bit off track, but do you think David Moyes will take any of his players with him to Old Trafford? Because that could have a big impact on the team.
I could see Leighton Baines. He kind of fits that bill. Manchester United seem to like to sign, whether they bring up young players through their youth or they sign them from other clubs, British players.
Yeah. The spine of the team usually is, British. So.
Yeah, I mean players like Rooney, Ferdinand, Carrick. There'll be others I just can't remember off the top of my head. Chris Smalling wasn't established, but they took him from Fulham. So yeah, I think Leighton Baines. Evra's getting on a bit in his age. He, from what I hear, his performances aren't as good as what they used to be. So yeah, that would be
the problem with Streets Evra is always his defensive abilities.
Yeah,
I know it sounds silly to say because he's a left back, but United have been so vulnerable on that side over the past few years. I think Leighton Baines could go a long way in showing that up a bit.
Yeah,
I'd love to see Jagielka at United as well.
Yeah, well, Baines was in the Premier League Team of the Year, so he's well worth the interest from Manchester United, and it'd be a logical buy, probably in between somewhere between 10 and 15 million perhaps. He's not. I thought he was young, but I think he's
28, 29, is he not?
Maybe 27, 28, maybe, I think. So, I don't think he'd be too much. So, yeah, that'd be a smart buy for David Moyes.
Yeah, of course, Moyes has got a bit of a history with Wayne Rooney. And there's been a lot. Apparently, he said he wants to leave the club, but the club have said he hasn't. We've had this drama before. So, what colour do you think Wayne Rooney will be playing in next season? Because apparently him and Moyes just don't get on. Apparently Wayne Rooney tried to sue him.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. It's really strange, Wayne Rooney's his status as a Manchester United player, because to me I've always he's sort of symbolised Manchester United for me for a long time, which is funny. I always forget that he's a Scouser actually. It's kind of ironic. But I could never envision him seeing him playing in another team's kit. I just couldn't see it. Just from the personality that we've seen, I couldn't. You think he wouldn't like living abroad? I don't know. It seemed like a bit of a culture shock to him. I don't know. When
2 years ago, could you see Robin van Persie in a Manchester United shirt?
No, but it's different.
Did you see Torres in a Chelsea shirt?
No, but it's different because I don't know. Maybe it's just because of first of all, he's been there from a younger age than what any of them were. He's had more success with Manchester United than either of those two have, and I think maybe the fact he's English. I don't know. I feel players that are of the same nationality as the team that the club that they play for, have some loyalty towards that club. Whether or not, that's probably just a silly.
Tottenham fans might have something to say about that. Sol Campbell.
Okay, yeah, there's one. But Wayne Rooney, the thing is with him is he can't really move up really.
He seems to think that he can.
Van Persie and Torres both left because the grass was greener on the other side. Manchester United. Historically, clubs who are above them in the history of European football, Madrid and Barcelona.
Unless he goes to Real Madrid. Do you think Real Madrid want Wayne Rooney? Do you think they need Wayne Rooney?
Do I think they want him? Probably. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, again, whether Mourinho wants him, but who knows? It doesn't look like he's going to.
That's the thing. No one knows who's going to be.
It doesn't look like he's going to be the manager. I seen Gonzalo Higuain's been linked with Arsenal. I saw that on the internet yesterday, which I don't buy in any way. I think it was like £18 million, which I think is very undervalued for him. So yeah, who knows? There could be lots of comings and goings this summer. It's going to be a really interesting summer, actually. But yeah, you were asking me about Everton earlier, if they'll struggle after when Moyes leaves. Do you think it's a case of he's kind of put Everton in a false position where they're punching above their weight and they've been a top 8 club for the last 10 years? Do you think they're just going to kind of fall back into where they were before he came?
I think it definitely depends which manager they get. They've got the infrastructure there at Goodison Park. They've got a good stadium, they've got a good fan base, and they've got a good youth. I don't know how much Moyes has to do with that, but they've got a very good youth development. And in the right hands, I think they could flourish.
Yeah.
I don't think without cash injection, I don't think any manager can take them further than what Moyes has. But if they do get Martinez, they'll be playing attacking football. I don't think they'll be down there with the Wiggins and the Villas scrapping for relegation. But I think the fans at Goodison deserve to see good football. Not just because they're a Premier League team. It's because they've supported Everton and they've not had much to cheer about.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really negative about this, but Moyes hasn't won any trophies when he's been there, and that's 10 years. And I don't know when the last time they won a trophy before that. So, Martinez has already proved he can win trophies. Yesterday.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think there'll be too much change. I think there'll be more change at United than there will be at Everton.
Do you think there'll be a lot of players sold though? Do you think Everton? A lot of people are saying that maybe United won't be able to hold on to their best players now as well as they used to because the players would pledge allegiance to Ferguson. So do you think that at Everton a lot of the players would have stayed because of Moyes?
No, I think that's a much bigger problem at United than it is at Everton. I think the sort of players Everton attract are certainly capable players, but they're not the sort of players that go around demanding big contracts. They don't call the shots.
Yeah.
I think Everton are a respectable Premier League club and they'll get the respect of their players as long as they continue to sort of operate in a respectable way.
Yeah. By the way, the sponsorship was 1-2-1.
Yeah, that was it.
That was it. Great. And it had what was the beer they had as well?
It was a Chinese beer.
Yeah, Sing beer. Or I can't remember that. They've actually had some pretty cool sponsorships over the years. But yeah, Everton. They have been an established. The last, I'd say, 6-7 years since 2005 when they came forth. You've really had Manchester United, Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, Tottenham, Everton have been that sort of sixth team outside of that bracket. Not obviously Manchester City are of it.
No one wants to go to Goodison Park. No team wants to go there.
Yeah, I think that's a testament of how good a job he's done. Whereas in outside of the big boys you're playing, your Tottenham's except Manchester United's except from an Arsenal fan. Next, you're looking at away to Goodison Park and probably Britannia, Stoke as well. These are tough games where it's going to be a physical battle, as well as the fact that these teams can play. Well, not Stoke, but everything can actually play football as well. So, yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to move on to discuss the FA Cup final yesterday. I was otherwise engaged, so I didn't actually see the game. I wish I had watched it. How did City look? Did they deserve to lose the final?
I missed the opening half an hour of the game, but from the 60 minutes that I did see, I don't know. Probably their entire season, to an extent, could be encapsulated in that one performance. I thought. I mean,
flat.
I thought. Fine, they've still come. I mean, people are maybe being a bit hard on the fact that they've still come second in the Premier League. I mean, that's still a decent achievement.
Oh, with all the money they've spent.
Okay, not with the money they've got, but still, coming. coming second in the Premier League. It's not.
Bottom of the Champions League.
It's not the end of the world, but yeah, just lethargic.
What about coming bottom in the Champions League group? That's
Yeah, well, people are saying it doesn't look so silly now at the fact that Dortmund are a finalist and Madrid were a semi-finalist. So, I mean, I can understand it because even when Arsenal were successful under Arsene Wenger, for Wenger's first sort of 7 years in the Champions League, Arsenal struggled. I can remember Arsenal winning the double in 2001, 2002, and in the next season thinking, like we're the champions of England, we're gonna walk this, and then playing teams like Ajax and PSV, and, struggling and thinking, what the heck is going on here? Just not. It's a different. I think it does take time to adapt. Now, City have bought players that have Champions League experience, so you expected them to really. It wouldn't take that long to gel in the competition, but for whatever reasons, they've struggled the last 2 years. So, we'll see next season. I think they'll progress past the group stage, but it's a luck of the draw. It depends on who they get.
Depends who the manager is as well.
Yeah, but
yeah.
Yesterday they didn't deserve to. I mean, who would have thought they said that? They didn't deserve to win the cup final against a team that's 18th in the league.
They were 9-1.
Yeah, a few of our friends posted up the bets they put on. I wish I'd known that. I would have put a few quid on Wigan. And I mean, Wigan had a few penalty appeals. I think 2 strong penalty appeals turned down. One was in the last minute, right before the corner was awarded. So, really, City were fortunate just to lose the game that late on. But no, I think they from what I've heard, they need to have a clear out in the summer. Like I said, they've invested in a lot of players that haven't brought much to the table, but will be sitting there on big wages. Like the likes of Macon and Scott Sinclair and
Rodwell.
I think Rodwell came on in the second half. Apparently he's only played 5 games this season. Maybe 5 starts it was.
Javi Garcia as well, he's not seemed to do much.
Yeah, I think he seems like a good player, but he's not a player that whets the appetite really. But not every team needs these kind of players.
One player that does whet my appetite is Sean Maloney. How did he play? Because he.
I mean, as delusional as my older brother is, he's been singing Sean Maloney's praises for a long time now. Excuse me, and it's
He's really come into his own in the past sort of month of the season. Last sort of month.
Yeah,
of the season.
I think last season, because Wigan obviously had that miraculous comeback and stayed up. He played a really big role there last year.
He sort of just finds pockets of space and links play up really well. He gets goals, he takes set pieces.
He's got a good short-term burst of acceleration over a few yards. His close control and his dribbling's pretty good. And I've seen him score a few free kicks over the years. I think one for Scotland against the Faroe Islands. So yeah, I like him.
I think wherever Wigan end up next season, I think Sean Maloney will definitely be playing in the Premier League.
Yeah, on him, it's a shame that this kind of form has come so late into his career, because I think when he was at Celtic as a youngster, people really had high hopes, but for whatever reasons, whether it was injuries or I don't know, I think maybe I saw an interview where he said he had a problem with his confidence at some point in his career. But yeah, it's good to see. Yeah, we're Scottish, so it's good to see a Scotsman representing in the Prem.
Indeed.
Well, you were talking on the phone earlier. Obviously, Matt. So this is the 20th league title. Do you think this is one thing Ferguson said in his statement is that he wanted to leave the club in a position, at the strongest position possible? Do you think that he's done that?
Certainly not. I think he knows himself that the club's been stronger within his tenure.
Okay, but it's pretty. What's he gonna do? Like go out and make another Ronaldo?
Well, he said
it's
maybe
pretty
2 weeks ago that Phil Jones might be the greatest player the club's ever had.
Okay, but they're the champions. They've defeated possibly their biggest threat ever in Manchester City. They've got all these young players that are kind of seem to be maturing at the right time. They've got the best striker in European football in Van Persie, not counting Messi as a striker. So I mean, I don't really see what more could he have? What more could they won if they won the League Cup? Would you have been in a stronger position?
I think we would be in a stronger position if we had players that we could rely on going forward. And for me, as a Manchester United fan, I don't rely on Chris Smalling. I don't think we can rely on him yet. We're not at a stage where we can do that. We can't rely on Phil Jones yet. He looks like a great prospect, but we can't rely on him.
Yeah.
Paul Scholes is going. Michael Carrick's getting on. We don't have any midfielders we can rely on. We all know it. I don't like Tom Cleverley. We have 4 underperforming wingers.
Maybe Nani or Anderson will step up.
Come on. If Wayne Rooney leaves, Robin van Persie's got to carry the front line on his shoulders. I'm a huge fan of Hernandez, but I think it'd be too much responsibility for him to do that on his own.
Yeah, but David Moyes is going to get money to invest in the squad, so I mean, who knows who he's going to buy?
That's the thing.
Lewandowski. Here we go.
That's the thing. I don't trust David Moyes to go out and buy players like Alex Ferguson has. And if David Moyes does have to buy, then Ferguson isn't leaving us in the strongest position possible. And we can't get on at the guy for doing this because he's given us everything.
Yeah.
But I think to say he's left us in the strongest position possible is a bit of a fallacy.
I don't know, David Moyes' track record, okay, say before David Moyes came into the job at Everton, would they realistically ever been able to acquire the kind of players that he's brought to the Goodison Park? International players that play at the World Cup.
Round about the time that he came in, they had Kevin Campbell, who's a good striker. He was in and about the England team. Duncan Ferguson.
They were aging players. Yeah, they were on the verge of retirement, those guys, when he came in.
I know, but Everton have always been a big club. It's not like he's taken Swansea from the Division 3 up into the Premier League. And Everton have always been able to attract semi-reasonable players.
They were fairly stagnant when he took the job, though.
I think people are overrated. I'm in support of David Moyes. I hope he does well, but
they're about to finish ahead of Liverpool for the second year in a row. That's unbelievable.
I know, but as a Manchester United fan, you can't blame me for being uncertain about the future.
Yeah. No, that is one argument I'll agree with. Whereas I think managers like your Wengers or Ferguson's, they can take maybe not average players, but not great players, and make them seem great, and they can get the best out of them.
Well, name an average player Fergie's made look good, apart from Gary Neville.
Well, no,
sorry, Gary.
Not average players. What I'm saying is the current squad Manchester United have, in anyone's hands, anyone else's hands, they're not going to do as well.
Well, you just said it yourself then.
Yes.
So you're saying that they're not going to do as well.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that. I think that applies to almost all managers, because Ferguson and Arsene Wenger are some of the greats. They've accomplished a lot in the game, but their fact to constantly rebuild new teams and keep them at Ferguson at a title-winning and Champions League competing team, and Arsene Wenger's been able to keep Arsenal, as a top 4 a Champions League team. So no other managers, to my recollection, have done that, because they've just not had the longevity at such a high level in the game. Because, like I said, I've always said Arsenal, 5 years ago when Arsene Wenger had his kiddie project, we were competing with players such as Danielson, Alex Song, Flamini, Clichy. These guys were all young, but plucked from obscurity in most of the cases. And Wenger, in any other manager's hands, not only would Arsenal not be competing, they would have fallen behind, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, I completely agree, and that's why I'm so uncertain over the future of Manchester United under David Moyes. I'm not going to rule out the fact that they could go out on and win 5 league titles.
Yeah.
But if I was going to put money on it, I'd say Chelsea would win the league next year if they get Mourinho.
Yeah.
I just don't fancy United under Ferguson's everything about that club. That's why I'm looking forward to the game today, because he's going to get his send off, and I think it's going to be an emotional game. What are you thinking about the game today? Do you think they'll win it quite comfortably?
Yeah,
there's so much emotion surrounding the tie. Will that sort of detract from the gameplay?
Well, Swansea. I mean, people say Swansea's season was over. The minute they lifted the Carling Cup, the Capital One Cup. Don't want to get sued. So it's just going to be a party atmosphere. I don't see why anyone should take the. I mean, they'll be serious. Man United are going to want to win it, and they'll take it serious in that it's the last game for Sir Alex Ferguson under in Old Trafford. Sorry, at Old Trafford. So yeah, but players will go out there and relax, and that's probably something you.
It'd be good to see Paul Scholes play today.
Yeah, it's his last home game. Apparently, he's going to start.
Remarkable player.
That's something that you probably don't want. You're not looking forward to. Those a Swansea fan, a relaxed Robin van Persie. I wouldn't to see him score a bunch of goals today wouldn't be a surprise.
What's your prediction for the game?
Home win. High scoring, probably 3-4-0. Were you saying we're getting news that Rooney's not in the squad today?
Yeah, Rooney's not in the squad. It's a bit of a surprise. It could tell a bit of a story.
So, and there's been no updates as to whether he's picked up an injury or.
No, I think they're pretty hush about it, to be honest. I can understand why. I mean, he's not really been figuring that much in the past few weeks, and with the season over anyway, if he does have a knock, he might not be playing for that reason, but there could be a story behind it.
Yeah, echoes Van Nistelrooy in, I think it was 2006, perhaps, the last home game of the season. He was against Charlton. I think that was Alan Kirbish's last game as Charlton manager before he went to West Ham. I think Van Nistelrooy took off before the game or something.
Okay.
I think he was either left on the bench or just wasn't in the squad.
Yeah, I can remember him being left out.
And
is you not referring to the final that you missed out?
That crossed my mind. The League Cup final against Wigan, he was benched. I think it was the home game against Charlton that he just drove. He left the stadium. He definitely wasn't picked for that cup final because Saha had just been signed and Ferguson preferred him, and I remember that cup final. I might be wrong, but I believe it. He did that again. Maybe he did it both times. Big baby. So kind of reminds me of that.
Well, he's been left out of the party anyway. But so what's your score?
Yeah, 3-4. It doesn't really matter. Just as long as it's a home win, I guess. And
that won't spoil the party.
Yeah,
well, I've got 3-1. Paul Scholes first goal scorer. That's sort of my dream scenario. I'd like to see him score. Well, just a final word. Still in Petrov had to retire this week due to his battle with cancer. He's a great player at Celtic, and he's
leukemia.
Yeah, leukemia, and he's done well in the Premier League as well. So we want to wish him all the best in his retirement. And that's pretty much us for this week. We'll be back perhaps next Sunday.
Yeah, hopefully we can either review or preview the final games of the season.
Yeah, maybe talk a bit about the Champions League final as well. It's coming up.
Yep, relegation. Obviously, Arsenal Champions League. It looks like Tottenham have just beat Stoke, so it looks like the top four is going to go down. That final spot for the top four is going to go down to the wire. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
Relegation battle as well.
Yep.
So well, thank you very much for listening. In the meantime, you can get us on Twitter at Derry Aldred.
Yeah, and I'm at. My handle is at MattRobbo1990.
I think that's us well and truly gone into Fergie time, so let's just call it a day.